Happy morning, friends. Here's yours, Dr. Ajanta. Welcome to day 8 session. Today we are just going to discuss about Python type conversion and typecasting. Before learning type conversion in Python, you would have to know the knowledge about Python data types. And let me just go for type conversion. The process of converting the values of one data type, that is integer or string or float, etc., to another data type is called type conversion. Python has two types of type conversion. One is implicit type conversion and another one is explicit type conversion. Let one just see what is implicit type conversion. In implicit type conversion, Python automatically converts one data type to another data type. This process doesn't need any user involvement. Let's see an example where Python promotes the conversion of the lower data type. Let me just have an integer to the higher data type as example of float to avoid data loss. And here is the example 1. Let I just execute. And see here, dear friends, we add two variables, numInt and numFloat, storing the value in numNew. We will look at the data type of all three objects respectively. In the output, we can see the data type of numInt is an integer while the data type of numFloat is a float. Also, we can see the numNew has a float data type because Python always converts smaller data types to larger data types to avoid the loss of data. Let me just go for the second example. Addition of string, that is the higher data type, and integer lower data type. So numInt is equal to 1, 2, 3. Numstring is equal to 4, 5, 6 within double quotes. So it is a string variable. As we can see from the output, we would get an error. Yes, absolutely, dear friends. Let I just execute. Yeah, unsupported operand type for addition, that is integer and string. So we got typo error. So Python is not able to use implicit conversion in such condition. However, Python has a solution for this types of situation which we can just do by explicitly. Okay. Next is the explicit type conversion. In explicit type conversion, users convert the data type of an object to required data type. We use the predefined functions like an integer or a float or a string, etc. to perform explicit type conversion. This type of conversion is also called typecasting because the user casts, that is changes the data type of the objects. And here it is the syntax. Typecasting can be done by assigning the required data type function to the expression. Fine. Let me just see with some example. See here, dear friends, this is the conversion from integer to float. The variable numInt, which it just has a 10, so it seems to be an integer. When we just print it, we would just get the output as 10. To the same num, and see here dear friends, the integer variable num int, which is equal to 10, if you want to typecast it as a float, extensive data type function has to be given, that is float of num int, and see the resultant is 10.0. So it is converted it into float. Let me just see the next example, float to int. And see here dear friends, the variable gravity has the value as 9.81. When you are type converting it into the integer, the exact decimal would be truncated. Fine. And in the previous example, example 2, we just made an attempt of addition of string and integer. So as to the resultant, we just got an error. Now let me just make use of explicit conversion, and see here dear friends, we add num string and num int variable. Whereas num string is a string that is the higher to integer type using int function to perform the addition. After converting num string to an integer value, Python is able to add these two variables. Let I just execute this one. And see here dear friends, we got the num sum value and data type to be an integer. And see here, next, if I just want to print this, see, this 6 is an integer. If I just want to convert it into a float, that is means integer 6 to a float value it with an decimal. And to the same thing, if you want to make a conversion from float to integer, and see here, if I make it an explicit conversion, the float 33.6, after making an truncation of the decimals, it would be 33. And even though you can just type conversion negative numbers, int minus 33, int minus 33.6, which is resulted to minus 33. Next, let me just see conversion to and from string must contain some compatible values. So let me just make integer to string. See here, num int is equal to 10. So if I just want to make it as a string variable, yeah, it would be with a quotes, whether it is a single quotes or some double quotes. So here we can just specify as a string variable, which you can't use this string variable as an addition or a subtraction or any other operation. Okay, next, going for a float. The float means converting string to a float value. And see here dear friends, the string which is with a single quotes, if you want to convert it into a float value, which you can make use of as an operand for any operation. Next, coming to that, string to int or float. Okay, let me try this dear friends. This num string is equal to 10.6, which is within single quotes, that is it is a string variable. If you want to convert it into an integer or a float, let me try for a float, and it has to be as 10.6 as a float variable, and here I am just giving you a explicit type conversion of float. And the next one, converting 65, that is integer value 65 to a string value. So after converting it, it being executed with a single quotes. And see here dear friends, if you just want to make something different, so means converting string 1p to an integer value. 1p to an integer value, it is a invalid literal of int with a base 10, that is 1. And dear friends, see here this 1p as a value when we just assign for an integer, it is nothing mean to have a value for 1p. So it resulted with an value error. Let me just see the next one, a string of 1p. Yeah, whether it is with a double quotes or a single quotes, some value which you want to convert it into a string, yeah, it is resulted with a single quotes. And next we can even convert one sequence to another. And here, see here dear friends, the tuple which is in a square bracket 1, 2, 3 are now converted to a set with an inside of a flower bracket. Yeah, the same list order, now it is converted to a set. And next example, it just to show the set is converted to a tuple. Yeah, it can be done by typecasting by providing the tuple of. Okay, next let me just see a string value, that is HELLO, now converting it into a list. And see here dear friends, when on converting that string HELLO into a list, so it is converted as each character into an element of that list. And with a detailed example, if I just want to convert that string to the list, if I just give the first name is equal to Ajanta, so if I just print how it is, yeah, it just printed as Ajanta. And when you want to explicitly convert it into a list, see here dear friends, each and every character of the value, string value Ajanta, it is now as an element in the list. And you can also make use of the same functionality to convert to a dictionary. So each element must be a pair. Each element must be a pair. So see here dear friends, when you just make use of this 1 and 2 which is a tuple, now it is converted as a dictionary where with a key and a value. And same, you can also make use of the another example, the value of tuple value of 3, 63 and 7, 91 is converted into a dictionary. And dear friends, kindly have some note, that is type conversion is the conversion of object from one data type to another data type. Implicit type conversion is automatically performed by the Python interpreter. Python avoids the loss of data in implicit type conversion. And explicit type conversion is also called typecasting. The data types of objects are converted using predefined function by the user. So in typecasting, loss of data may occur as we enforce the object to a specific data.